Hello and welcome to Practically Effective. This is a podcast by Will and I about effects, props and stunts in various films. And today...
But who are you?
I'm Joe.
Yeah.
And today, you are Will.
Yep.
As every day.
And today I will.
Tomorrow you could be anyone else.
Yep.
And today...
Jason Bourne.
And today, we're talking about Jason Bourne.
Really?
Specifically, the first three movies, the Jason Bourne trilogy.
Yeah. The Bourne Identity, the Bourne Supremacy, and the Bourne Ultimatum.
We don't care about the Bourne Hawkeye or the new one.
Bourne Hawkeye? Or the one with the Jesus Christ, it's Jason Bourne.
Yes, the one that spawned the meme.
Yeah.
That deserves its own episode. So, as at the beginning of every episode, I say, Will, what do you think of Jason Bourne? He's just staring at me, munching a tiffin. As occasionally in the specials, we have a pot of tiffins. Every podcast, I do the introduction and I say...
I'm trying to avoid it, hoping you'd notice and skip that question.
Were you expecting me to panic and go, so Joe, what do you think of Jason Bourne?
Yes.
I mean, that could work. I like the Bourne movies.
They're all the same.
But they're all the same.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember which movie which thing happened in. And
I can now,
Yes.
having just watched them a couple of days ago.
yeah.
But when I first watched them, I watched all three of them over the course of a day or two. And even a few days later, I couldn't remember what happened in each film. They're all kind of just the same.
And the overlapping time scale of the Supremacy and Ultimatum doesn't help.
Mm.
I find these are technically good movies. They are really well made.
Yeah.
And the plots are great, but they're not the kind of thing that I'm like, oh, you know what, I'll sit down and watch a Bourne movie. I'll be like, I'll sit down and watch a Bond movie or a Mission Impossible movie because they're dumb and entertaining. But this thinky film, nah.
It's not that thinky.
No, but I mean, it's more complicated than, Ethan Hunt, there's a bomb, stop the bomb, get in your car and drive over this enormous obnoxious ramp, flip several times and leap out, rip off your mask and shoot the bomb. That's Mission Impossible. Just
Really?
all of them. I think there was some Fast and Furious in there as well.
I'm looking through my notes and I'm realising now how much of them are just really naff bits of trivia.
Alright, so normally on Practically Effective, we faff about the beginning wondering how we should do it, and then we decide to do it chronologically.
Yeah,
But
but
we're
that's
not
not
gonna
really
do
going to
that.
work with this one. So.
No. So we're thinking we're going topic by topic.
Yeah.
Talking the fights, talking the car chases, talking the villains, talking the Bourne.
The Bourne.
The Bourne.
Oh,
Go on.
Troubled Productions. We're going to do that first.
Yes. We both independently realised there was a major troubled production
Yeah.
on the Bourne
It's
identity.
probably the same one.
Yeah. I went in depth on this. I dug up New York Times articles.
I have half a page.
Alright, so together, without talking about what we've both got, we're going to try and tell you about the troubled production of the Bourne identity. Oh, did you know, before we do this, did you know that there was a TV movie?
Yes, and it follows the book a lot more closely than the film.
I mean, it looks really bad.
I haven't seen it.
Bourne is 50.
Right.
And I don't know anything else about it, apart from that.
We should watch some of it at some point.
What we should do is do a NAF Bourne special
Yeah.
down the line, do the Legacy, and do the TV movie.
That's a good idea.
And possibly the new one, if that's bad, I'm not sure.
I'm sure we'll forget about it.
Anyway, back to the point. Can I tell you, before we get
Troubled Productions.
into the trouble production,
No,
can I
okay.
tell you who else could have been Bourne?
I know Sylvester Stallone was considered.
Which is a horrible idea.
Yeah.
Not the most horrible idea, though.
No.
Alright, okay, we're going from best to worst, in my opinion.
Okay.
Brad Pitt, as in the star of Ocean's 12, your favourite movie.
Oh yeah, my favourite movie. My favourite movie, Ocean's 12. Second only to Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets.
Your two favourite films.
Two favourite films.
So, Brad Pitt was offered the role but turned it down to do another movie called Spy Game, which
Oh, I heard about that and it did terribly.
not as good, apparently. Yeah. It looks alright, though.
It's got decent reviews on. It was like a 7.1 on IMDb, I think.
But it's faded into obscurity.
Yeah.
Russell Crowe, next up.
Yeah. He would have been alright.
Tom Cruise.
I mean, he's already
Mission Impossible.
Mission Impossible.
Plus, he's too...
Short.
Yes. That's the problem. He's too short.
We're going to be hearing from his lawyers.
But then they'd be like, where's Jason Bourne?
The camera would just pan down slowly.
He could disappear in a crowd because he'd be a head shorter than everyone else. And the worst idea, which is also the best idea, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh, that's the best idea. That would be great.
A Running Man style Jason Bourne movie.
Completely change the tone of the film.
I like the idea that everything else is exactly the same, and he's just on
The only difference is he makes a pun after killing someone.
Oh, what puns would he make?
Like after he kills the professor,
Yep.
he could say like, "You should have studied harder."
Oh, there must be one for the guy he stabs with a pen. The pen is mightier than the sword.
Neither of them have a sword.
He's in Jason Bourne's house, so he could just pull a sword out of the wardrobe.
Just for that pun.
Yes. He doesn't use it in the fight.
Yeah.
He kills the guy with the pen. And then he pulls out the sword and goes, the pen
No.
is mightier.
Because at the end he jumps out the window that way. He could turn to his girlfriend and say, "Looks like he fell for you."
That's a good one. I can't think of anyone else he kills in notable ways.
The body count, especially for the Bourne Identity, is surprisingly low.
Yeah.
Like in total, something like 8 people.
And then he stops killing assassins.
Yeah.
He has an emotional journey where he thinks killing is the worst. But now let's get to Trouble Productions, because
Yes.
it's my favourite segment of the show.
I have more, apparently, Trouble Productions on the next page, according to my note. Oh, there's nothing there. What?
What have you done?
I remember what it was. I need to find it. Virtually effective. Jason Bourne.
Oh, look.
There we go. Look, I just took a screenshot of the relevant bits from it. Oh no, those are differences to the novel. I don't know. There's some differences to the novel which we can cover later. But for now, we're doing Troubled Productions, which I've insisted I've got more for, but... No, that's it, apparently.
Alright, so basically, tell me of Trouble Productions.
Well, the director in the studio didn't like it very much.
With a lot of these stories, like with Superman,
Yeah.
it was very obviously the producer's fault,
Yeah.
and the director was doing his best. With this one, there's fault on both sides, I feel.
I don't really have enough detail on it to say, but all I know is the studio was insisting on reshoots.
The studio wanted it to be bigger, I think.
Yeah, they wanted less emphasis on like small scale. And all I got from the director's side was that he just didn't like the idea of studio involvement, which isn't really very detailed. And
No.
besides, they're the ones bankrolling it, so they're kind of entitled to
Yeah, completely.
make some comments on it.
The quote I read was that he was suspicious of direct studio involvement.
Right, yeah.
And in his own words, he was paranoid. But yeah, he was an indie director, so he hadn't done a big budget thing before.
Yeah.
And suddenly he's helming this $52 million movie, which is going to 7 countries around the world, and he's completely out of his depth, basically. He did some weird things, like he hired a crew that didn't speak English for some reason.
Right, I didn't hear about that.
Yeah,
Okay.
he had an entirely French-speaking crew. I mean, they were filming in France. It went $8 million over budget.
Yeah, 8 billion, yeah.
And was delayed by 9 months, which is not a good run. Especially considering the movie cost $52 million.
Because I'd written that it went 8 million over budget, but I misread the dollar sign as a 5. So I thought it went 58 million over budget.
Wow! That's poor directing. That's a troubled production. Also, I heard that the producer, a guy called Richard, had to go back to America because his wife was having a difficult pregnancy. So basically, there was this guy in France filming a movie his own way, completely unchecked, because there wasn't a producer anymore. So I can understand why the studio were weird about it.
Well, I read that the main bit the studio had a contention with was the farmhouse scene.
Yeah?
At the end of the film. Apparently they didn't like that.
Yeah.
That it was a bit too slow and a bit pointless.
I mean, you can see it from both sides. It's a good character building bit.
Yeah.
But also, Jason Bourne leaves Paris to go to the farmhouse and then goes back to Paris. And also, did you hear that the screenwriter, basically, he got the script, and Matt Damon and him weren't happy with the rewrites that the studio had put at the end. So they just ripped the back off the script and were like, sod this. And the screenwriter was writing pages and faxing it to them while they were filming. So I can understand why the studio were concerned about this
rogue
director. They were there in their offices with their screens, like, he's gone rogue. He's filming farmhouses. We've got to stop him. Call the professor. Have you got anything else on the troubled production?
No. That's about it.
Apparently Damon was completely on his side, though. On Doug Liman's side.
Oh, yeah. Apparently it was mostly Lyman and Damon who were arguing about the farmhouse scenes, that they should be kept.
Yeah. You mean like arguing together, not arguing against each other?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it does build Bourne's character. And it's the moment where he realises he doesn't want to do assassinating anymore. He wants to hide away.
He wants to live in a farmhouse.
Have some kiddies.
Yeah.
I'm not really a fan of deleted scenes. But on my DVD there was one that was like farmhouse extended scene. And they tricked me well. It was 1 minute of them eating dinner. And the first 20 seconds was just them eating dinner. And then, so it's Jason Bourne, Marie, the father and the 2 kids. And then like this 3-year-old boy pipes out. He looks at Jason Bourne and he's like, says some stupid line about alligators. And then the dad is like, young Timmy here just loves alligators. And then his daughter, who's like about 7, says, do you know what alligators mean? Yes. And then the dad goes, and young Vanessa is thrilled with her vocabulary. And she goes, do you know what vocabulary means? And that's the end of the scene.
What? Why?
I don't know.
Are they trying to make that family more fleshed out characters?
Yes, I assume so. Maybe that's why the studio didn't want to film the farmhouse. So I've got this great idea for a scene with a kid. He talks about alligators.
Oh dear.
I need another $8 million.
I need another $58 million.
But I think that's one of the best scenes in that movie, probably. No, it's not. The mini case is the best scene in that movie.
Well, you did say one of the best scenes.
I did. So should we talk about the car chases, because I just tenuously linked in.
The car chases.
That was a beautiful segue. There's basically one good car chase in each movie.
Yeah.
Right? So
I assume we're talking about the one where he starts at the train
I was watching behind the scenes stuff on Bourne Supremacy.
Yeah. Okay.
They did. They don't become relevant. They did a locations guide, and it's like they went to this place and this place and this place, and they talked to the producers and the directors and whatnot while they were on location. And at the first one, there was a producer, and he was like, "Yeah, we're at our 3rd train station of this movie. Bourne is all about train stations."
There are a lot of trains. I have another comment about Bourne's like of trains.
But then they go to another city, and there's the same guy again. He's like, "Yeah, we're at another train station," and he has no enthusiasm for train stations anymore.
That's to sidetrack us even more.
Go for it.
There's several times where Bourne uses trains in his escapes.
He does.
Presumably because he's at train stations so much, he has to. There's not much else available. But he'll jump in front of a train just before it passes, or like he'll get on a train, which is the best way to evade people, or he'll make people think he got on a train. They're like his favourite evasion strategies.
What if in the Bourne Identity he couldn't remember anything, and then he gets his memory back and he was just a train driver? And that's why he loves train stations.
He was like took some self-defense classes in his spare time.
Yeah. But one of the other, still sidetracking us some more, in Supremacy there's that bit where he runs onto a train and then the train doesn't leave, so he has to run off the train and run across the train tracks. Or maybe it's Ultimatum, because then he jumps off the bridge onto the barge.
He's Ultimatum, because isn't that right near the beginning of the film?
No, it's not. Wait, I'm lost. Anyway, in one of these movies... This is
just what we were talking about.
Exactly. This is why we're not giving them individual episodes, because they're all the same. So anyway, the guy was real proud of the fact that they were punching that cliche in the face of when a guy runs onto a train and then the doors close a second later. And he was like, yeah, it's Jason Bourne. This isn't some cliche action movie. He runs on the train and then the doors don't close and the police close in and he has to use his brains to make an escape. But... he uses his brains to make an escape. He jumps off the bridge, he gets on the barge, he climbs back onto the bridge, gets on another train, and the doors close immediately. So that cliche was repeated 2 minutes after they punched the cliche. No one can appreciate my punching gesture that I'm doing.
Joe is enthusiastically punching the air. As he says, punching.
When I watched Supremacy, I was getting a bit bored of Bourne, basically, and I was like, maybe to spice up Ultimatum, I'll watch it with the audio description commentary on.
Yeah.
Didn't have it available. Which is a shame, because I would love it to be... Cause you know how slow and laboured they are. Like,
yeah.
And then James Bond picked up his gun and shot 12 men in the face. By the time he's finished describing the action scene, he's in a different country. I just want to see that with the Bourne fight scenes, which last approximately 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Anyway, going back to the car chases.
Oh yeah, so we're talking about the car chase.
So, Bourne Identity has the mini car chase around the streets of Paris.
Which is to say a car chase with a mini. a small car chase.
He's 20 seconds. He drives to the end of the road and gets out.
Yeah.
Supremacy ends with a really big taxi chase.
Yeah.
And Ultimatum has a big police car chase, and also has the world's slowest moped chase.
Yes, it does.
So, what's your favourite Bourne car chase, Will?
I quite like the taxi one in, is it Supremacy?
Yes,
The taxi?
10 out of 10. Have a tiffin.
Oh, I will.
That's your reward for remembering which Bourne movie it was. I like the mini chase, but yeah, I think the taxi chase is the best. There aren't many movies that end with a big car chase, are there?
Fast and Furious.
I mean, the whole movie's a big car chase.
Yeah.
And if the car's being chased by a submarine, is it really a car chase? It's a multi-vehicular car chase.
That's just a car chase with more than one vehicle, which is all car chases.
There must be a car chase with one car.
I'm sure there's car chases with one car,
Yeah,
but not with one vehicle. You have to have, like, people chasing a car.
Oh,
I mean,
dear.
either the car would just pull away immediately,
Yes.
or it would get stuck in traffic and get caught immediately.
I don't know what his end game is, though. When you catch a car, what are you going to do? Just punch it into submission?
No, you punch the driver, not the car.
I like to think the driver has, like, internal locking. He just gets to the car and is frantically pulling at the handle. And the guy is sitting in there real smoke. He just lowers the opposite window, and then as the guy runs around, he raises it again. Anyway, the car chase as well.
Yes.
Yes, the taxi chase is great.
Yeah.
Why is the car chase great? The taxi chase great.
Because at the end, he kills that guy.
No, he doesn't though.
I think you're the wrong one.
No, Jason Bourne uses his taxi to crash Carl Urban in his big black Mercedes. He crashes him up like a middle barrier thing.
Yes.
A slight incline.
A slight incline.
He
Again,
defeats his car with a slight incline and crashes him into a pillar of a bridge. And he gets out and doesn't shoot him.
Yes.
And that decision never comes back to haunt him in any way.
Right.
Which probably means he died of his wounds. So Jason Bourne would have been merciful and given him a quick death.
But no.
But no.
He's a monster.
He bled
As we'll
out.
get on to later, Jason Bourne is in fact a monster and needs to be stopped.
But then they do exactly the same stunt with the villain pushes Jason Bourne's police car up the ramp in Ultimatum. And there's a real big flip, but somehow Jason Bourne still gets out of his car first and then doesn't shoot the guy again. Does it annoy you?
Yes.
And we have to get to this sooner or later. Does the shaky cam annoy you?
Oh, so apparently, this isn't directly... There's kind of similar problem.
Cool, go on.
But, like, apparently I don't know if this was for all of the films or just one of them, but the director wouldn't show the cameramen the script,
Yeah.
so they wouldn't know who was going to be talking next. So that's why the camera lags behind.
Yeah.
Because the cameramen don't know where to go.
It's commitment to your style, but
Yeah.
is it a style worth committing to?
It's a little annoying.
Yeah. Especially during the car chases, I find. I find it more annoying during the car chases than during anything else. Because
You can't really see what's going on some of the time.
especially in that bit in Ultimatum where he reverses off the roof and crashes. He reverses off the roof of the parking, big old car park,
Yeah.
and he falls down on some cars below. And it's shown in like 4 shots. And I can understand why, because if they'd suddenly done a big wide shot and shown it in falling in slow motion or something, it would look really jarring compared to all the other shaky stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it works quite well in the fight scenes.
I find this a lot with film fight scenes, so maybe it's just me.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of the time in film fight scenes where I have no idea what's happening. It's just 2 people fighting and I have no idea of the details.
Some of them are like that, I found. So, like, the one in Supremacy where he's fighting the other Treadstone agent in his house,
Yeah.
and he's zip-tied his hands together. They're 2 guys with the same hair colour, both wearing black,
Right,
and they're rolling around on the floor.
Yeah, you can't
tell
tell
who's
who's
winning
winning,
that fight. Just assume it's Jason Bourne. But, yeah, in some of them, like the one with Desh in Ultimatum, the big fight in that, I think that works with the shaky camera. Because they didn't overdo it. And, like, the chase across the rooftops, it works, I think.
Yeah.
But car chases, I don't think so much. But then something you can say about this movie... That is a terrible way to start a sentence. Why would we be here if I couldn't say it about a movie? I can only show you this fact in interpretive dance. Sorry, listeners, this one's for Will. I've forgotten the point now. No, all the car chases, the cars are all very distinctive.
Yes.
So it's like a Mini versus...
And they're very rarely, like, proper sporty cars as well.
Yeah.
They're often, like, just regular...
Yeah, but also it's like, if the villain is driving a big black SUV, Bourne is in a yellow taxi, so you can tell who is who from the outside shots. And, like, if the villain's driving black sedans, Bourne's in a police car. So you can see who's who, which is good clarity when you're wiggling the camera all over the place like a maniac. So occasionally distracting, but mostly good. Is that what we're saying?
Oh, I've just that what you just said then about wiggling the camera about reminded me of another Troubled Productions thing.
Yes.
So you know the final act of the Bourne Identity.
He goes to confront Conklin, if that's his name.
Being the CIA man
in the safe house, and then he shoots a lot of people on a stairwell and falls about 10 stories. And because he lands on
a dead body, but he was fine. Yeah, that one. And then Conklin gets shot by
the assassin guy. I'd completely forgotten that.
Well, that happens. Do you not wonder why Conklin doesn't show up in any of the other films? But anyway, yeah. The studio, apparently wanted him to open that act with like a montage.
A montage of what?
Specifically, they said, open that act with a montage like what Tony Scott does. And then Lyman replied with, if you want it to be like Tony Scott, why don't you get Tony Scott to come and film it?
That's a fair point. I mean, what did they want him to do? Because the point of Jason Bourne is that he doesn't have all these gizmos and gadgets, and he doesn't build a thing.
He doesn't suit up.
Yeah, he doesn't build a thing like the A-Team. He doesn't put on his armour. He just goes in, and because he has the knowledge and the smarts, he wins. Although, they make a big deal about him not having any gadgets. But he does have that thing that sets off car alarms.
He has a pen.
He has a pen. But he has that little thing that he sets off all the car alarms outside the place. And then you see it again in Supremacy. Where did he get that from?
I don't remember that.
It's really...
I do remember reading that everything that Bourne uses, the average citizen can go out and buy.
What, a car alarm activator?
Well, I don't remember that.
At the beginning of the scene, they're like, Bourne is coming for us.
Are you sure he's not just hitting the cars?
No. So they don't show it in Identity. It's just all the alarms outside the building go off, and Conklin's like, it's Jason Bourne. He's notorious for setting off car alarms.
I know the scene you're talking about. I don't remember the car alarms going off. I remember the lights going off.
But then...
Are you sure you're not confusing cars with light bulbs?
No. All the alarms outside the place go off. And then in Supremacy, when he's escaping...
Why would that help you, though?
I assume it's so people are looking out of the window at the car alarms, not at the door where he's coming in. He's sneaking in. But then in Supremacy, he's escaping from somewhere through a car park. And he pulls out like a little smartphone-sized rectangle, which isn't a smartphone because it's 2004. And he points it at some cars and the alarms go off. He has a car alarm setter offer. I would have much preferred it, though, if he was just hiding in like a doorway throwing rocks at the cars. And they're like, he's setting off all the alarms. It's Bourne. He's got highly sophisticated technology. And he's just there with a brick. So we've kind of talked about the car chases.
So mostly we talked about car alarms.
Yes. So let's move on.
Let's move on.
Do you want to talk...
Fight scenes.
Fight scenes, good choice. Should we go vaguely chronologically?
Because I don't remember any of the fight scenes. Well, okay. Let me clarify this.
Yep.
I remember Jason Bourne punching a lot of people, but I cannot identify who, where, why, or which film it's in.
That sums up these movies for me completely. Bourne has some great fights in this movie.
Yeah.
But my favourite ones are the ones where, like, when he fights the two policemen right at the beginning of Bourne Identity, where he just knocks two guys to the ground in 5 seconds. Yeah. They're my favourite one. My actual favourite one is when he gets arrested in Supremacy, when he's picked up at the border, and some cocky airport security guy has him locked away.
Yeah.
And the guy has, like, a flip phone with a clear screen.
I noticed that. You can, like, see his ear.
You can see his little ear window on it.
What use does that have?
I don't know.
Except to show people your ear when you're on the phone.
But I mean, it's his scene. And someone calls him, he's like, you've got a very dangerous fugitive there. And he's in a room with 2 guards. And he walks over to the table and he's like, all right, you're under arrest, mister.
Pubescent teenager.
Yes. He's like, you're not going anywhere.
Oh, wow.
He matures quickly.
Puberty.
Well, he gets the call, he walks up to Bourne, and he's like, you're not going anywhere. And then Bourne just stands up, knocks him out, and then beats the 2 policemen, and the fight is over within 10 seconds. That's my favourite one. Yeah, it's great. But I like the one right at the beginning of Identity with the 2 policemen.
With the 2 policemen on the park bench, yeah.
Because he doesn't know he can do that.
No.
And the policeman gets out his baton because this homeless man won't stand up. And he swings at him. Bourne catches it. And then he kind of looks and he's surprised. And then he's like, let's see where this goes. And then he leaps up and apparently hospitalizes both of them.
Yeah, hospitalizes.
Yeah, they say that later on.
Hospitalizes.
What did I say?
Not hospitalizes.
Did I emphasise the spit? He puts them in the hospital.
Yeah.
But if I say that, it sounds like he beats them up and then takes them to A&E. Whatever A&E is in France.
Oh, la, e.
All those noises sound the same. Alright, so the first big fight scene in Identity is with the pen guy who he stabs.
Yep.
He has a name that I don't know.
He's one of the
Treadstone
agents, yeah.
Good fight? Bad fight?
He puts a pen in his knuckles.
I know!
Ugh.
Surely there was a more effective weapon on that table. My favourite thing about that fight, right, is that the first half of the movie we've been told that these assassins are made to be invisible. They can get in and out and kill a man in a second.
Yeah, only Jason Bourne seems to actually live up to the expectations. And the Professor kind of as well, actually.
Yeah. But the way this guy enters the scene is he swings in through the window, firing a machine gun. That's not subtle, sneaky, or invisible. When the police come, they're not going to be like, Jason Bourne had a machine gun accident and killed himself and his wife. We apologize for the French accents in this episode.
I don't.
So, yeah, subtlety.
Oh yeah, the only reason that fight goes down the way it does is because the hot water in his flat doesn't work.
I can understand cutting the phone lines, but turning off the water?
They'll never be able to take a good shower now. I've got him.
If he left the water on, the woman would have been in the bath, and Jason Bourne would have been sorting out his paperwork, or the stuff he'd poured out on his desk, and it would have been easy to kill them. Also, he could have just landed on the balcony and then shot through the window.
Yeah, but only if the water was off.
I reckon his previous mission, he went to assassinate a guy, and the guy turned on the shower and sprayed it in his eyes.
So now, okay, I'm being a target I go after. I'm turning the hot water off.
The assassin was just like, abort! And he leapt out a window. That's his signature move. Fortunately, it was the ground floor, so he escaped that time. I'd love to see a movie of just his botched assassination attempts, and everyone ends with him just running and jumping out of a window.
Yeah.
The next one of note is with the Professor.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, I do as well, because it's sneaky. I like the Professor.
Yeah, you're right. I know what you mean.
You're right. You do like the Professor.
He's very, I don't know, professional. He's not like, oh, I'm an evil assassin guy.
Yeah.
You know?
He's one of the closest to Bourne, I think.
Yeah.
The kind of guy that he doesn't have to be the most handsome man or the most muscles-toned man. He doesn't do flips and kicks. He's just good at shooting people.
Because he studied at a university, apparently.
Yes. And then he has the stairwell fight at the end of that movie, which is not really...
We've been over that already.
It's not that notable. You could not survive a 10-story drop by landing on a dead guy.
No.
All his bones would break, and then they'd stab you.
I think that would be the least of your worries. Yeah.
Also, you'd be dead.
Yeah.
What are the good fight scenes in the next one? Carl Urban kills his wife, his lady friend, right at the beginning. That's not really a fight, that's more of a chase.
He literally just gets shot once.
She was attacked by a bullet and lost.
Yeah.
I do love in that scene, though, it's the best switching of people in the front seats of a car.
Yeah. Where
someone's like, hey, I'll drive, and then, no, you drive.
He puts the seat down all the way.
He puts the seat back, does a backwards roll, and then it's great.
Yeah.
Why don't they do that in all the other movies?
Because they watched the Bourne films, and they realised that if you switch seats, they'll shoot your wife instead of you.
But, I mean, Carl Urban was looking through the scope. He's like, Jason Bourne's looking very blonde, long-haired, quite womanly. I mean, there's a man in the passenger seat.
Which looks just like Jason Bourne.
But that's definitely his girlfriend.
Well, no, maybe he was thinking to shoot the driver first and then stop the car.
Maybe. I reckon he'd seen too many Mission Impossible films and thought it was a mask situation.
No, I mean, I can understand. I mean, you're shooting a car, it's driving pretty fast. You maybe can't make out the details of a person's face. You just sort of see two people-shaped objects.
Yeah, fair enough. Oh, the next one is the Treadstone Assassin's house fight.
Oh, that one.
I love that scene.
I love the conversation that they're having.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of disappointed that it turned into a fight, to be honest.
So am I.
I wish they could have just sort of resolved it peacefully somehow.
Oh, I could have turned into a buddy cop movie.
Yeah.
I love
No, but the thing is, with the buddy cop movie, one of them has to be
the rookie.
young upstart, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, all of the Treadstone agents were supposed to have been sent after Bourne in the first film.
Yes.
And there's still this one guy left, right? So it's like... he's the guy who's like, nah, I'm not going after Bourne.
He was on holiday
Yeah.
that day. What happened to the guy... Because at the end of Identity, there's another Treadstone agent who kills Coughlin.
I think that's the guy in the house.
Ah, I hadn't twigged that.
Well, I assume it must be.
Yeah, it must be.
Because he's the last Treadstone agent.
The thing I like most about that scene is how Jason Bourne is super cautious because he knows that this guy can kill him in a second.
Yeah.
It's a really good, tense scene, and I wish that guy had survived because I like him. I don't know why. He's killed many people, presumably.
So was Jason Bourne.
Yeah.
But you like him.
I love his fighting style.
Yeah.
I like his amnesiac ways. That's fun for the first movie. I realised that the first movie, I don't know whether it began these tropes or it fell into these tropes or whatever, but it has the two tropes of the guy who can't remember who he is and he has to uncover the clues and then it turns out he's an assassin. Because there's a lot of movies where that happens.
Yeah.
And the other trope is the organisation and they've trained a guy to be the best, but then he goes rogue, but they made him too the best. They just can't stop him, Will. He's so the best. Why did we train him to be the best? It's the Wolverine syndrome. And then the sequels fall into the trope of he's the old guy and they've sent in the newer, fresher models. And he's got to use his wit and experience and brains and wit again. They won't be expecting him to use the wit twice.
Oh yeah.
Go on.
Here's something I noticed.
Tell me.
There were at least 2 times, maybe more, where he bribes people in morgues to see dead bodies.
Okay, so there's the time in Identity.
Yeah.
What are the other ones?
There's some time in Ultimatum as well.
Whose dead bodies are you looking at?
I don't remember.
He just likes dead bodies, well.
Yeah, almost as much as he likes trains. You see, I've ridden those 2 together.
I reckon he used to work in a morgue, and he knows the pay is rubbish, so he just likes to go and give people a tip, you know? So what's the next big fight in that movie? What else happens?
You know what we missed? Well, it's not really a fight.
Go on.
In the Bourne Identity, the embassy fight. They don't really have much of a fight. It's mostly him running away.
It's mainly him taking apart some guys. After this, we should do escapes, because there's some good escapes.
Right.
So, does he have a fight with Carl Urban at the end? He probably does.
Sure, why not?
I mean, there's a chase.
Yeah.
I don't think that counts as a... Should we do... we'll do fights, then we'll do escapes, then we'll do chases, then we'll do skirmishes, then we'll do...
World Wars.
Then we'll do times something happened on a bridge. That comes up a lot. Then we'll do briberies in morgues.
Oh, yeah, also, in the Bourne Identity, they feel the need to point out to the audience that he can't go to an airport because it's too obvious several times.
They should have just been like, don't go to the airport, he loves trains.
They thought the audience would be sitting there like, he would just go to the airport and fly to another country. So they have to point out, no.
It's just like the rookie at his desk. He's like, "Sir, I've got the airports. I'm checking all the airports for people going in and out with the name Jason Bourne." And they're like, "Oh, Jim, you really are the intern, aren't you?"
Or going in and out of the same airport.
Yes, sir. Okay, the only other fight of note is the fight with the guy in Tangier who he chases over the rooftops. And he's a big old fight.
When he
in the
jumps
house.
through the window.
Yes, that's a great shot. Because he jumps through and the cameraman followed him.
Yeah.
It's great. They were like, how are we going to do this? Jason Bourne makes the jump and then they got a stunt guy and were like, hey, you can hold a camera, and made him jump, and they caught him on some kind of intricate wire system.
Oh, that's
and it's really cool. I watched a featurette of the rooftop chase, and for the first 2 minutes they were talking about the bit where he jumps over the wall with the glass on it.
Yeah.
And they're like,
Well, at first we used a silicone glass, which is all rubbery, but for the close-up, of course, we had to change to toffee glass, which actually breaks when you put your hand on it.
and then they showed this one shot which is less than a second long of him jumping over the wall and one bit snaps off. Like, for that, you know it's all real and we're the best at effects. And I was like, this is the worst. And then they did this bit where they just gave a stunt guy a camera. We're like, look, run after Jason Bourne and jump through the window. And because all the other camera work is so shaky, you could
don't
tell.
notice, yeah.
Yeah. So the fight, I think it's Desh, isn't it?
Yeah.
The fight with him.
All I remember is running across the rooftops.
He jumps in the window.
He jumps in the window. It has a fight.
Why are we talking about movies that we just can't remember?
Have you forgotten as well? Is that what you asked me?
No, he punches him with a book. It's great.
Oh, he does. Is that the... Yes. He puts like a book on his throat, doesn't he? And he like whacks the book
Punches
into
him in
his
the
throat,
face with the book. And he gets like a big old candlestick holder thing and swinging that about. They get in the bathroom. Desh grabs a razor. Matt Damon grabs a towel. He was a bit sweaty, so he dries himself off. Desh has a quick shave. And they get back to the fight.
I don't remember that bit, but okay.
That fight goes on for a while.
Yeah.
Probably the highlight of that movie.
I might have
Skimmed.
stopped playing it, just skimmed for that fight.
Should we talk literally anything else? Because the fights are just us going, well, he certainly did a good punch there, didn't he? I did like that kick and a flip that Desh did. Do you want to talk main villains? Like, not assassins, just villains.
You mean the CIA bosses, basically?
Yes.
Yeah, right. You mean, so Matt Damon.
He's not a CIA boss.
Well, he's the main villain.
Alright, I need to hear your madcap theory.
It's not. It's... They always do it.
I'm ready.
Actually, the good guy, supposedly, who is supposed to sympathise with, is actually just a menace. And a horrible person.
I love that he's an assassin. You're like, he's a menace. I've just realised you're the J. Jonah Jameson of this podcast.
He's a menace.
Spider-Man's a menace. Jason Bourne's a menace.
Spider-Man is a menace, but we'll get onto him when we did Spider-Man before. Anyway,
as you were saying,
Jason Bourne, right?
I'll eat a tiffin.
As we find out in the final film, The Ultimatum,
Yep.
he signed up for that program voluntarily, knowing what it would entail, and was supposed to feel sympathy for him because he's made to do bad things, which he signed up for knowingly.
Yeah.
I don't feel any sympathy for him. He signed up for that. He wasn't forced into it or anything. He volunteered for it. I don't feel sympathy for him.
I like that aspect.
And now he's lost his memory, basically becomes a terrorist, finds out his past, has the opportunity to atone for it, but no, he just keeps going around committing atrocities.
True, but at least he's not killing people. He's just doing a lot of property damage and putting people in hospitals.
I support the CIA in these films. They need to hunt him down. He's a danger.
What do you think about the fact, like, what he remembers in Identity? About the reason his mission failed because of the kids?
Oh, that just means he wasn't committed to his job.
If he was a stone-cold assassin, willing to shoot a man with a bag on his head. He didn't know that wasn't two children in a big trench coat. Yeah. Do you like, I mentioned this to you earlier, do you like how when Jason Bourne remembers things, he goes, "Whoa!" He does a weird facial expression and, like, basically it floors him having a memory. And I enjoy that.
It's good that he doesn't have them, like, in the middle of a fight or something.
Yeah. That's how you defeat Jason Bourne. You're like, hey, Jason Bourne.
You make him remember something.
Do you remember that reference from the early 2000s? Do you remember The Phantom Menace? That's a reference from the early 2000s. And he'd be like, The Phantom Menace! And his head would explode. Arnold Schwarzenegger would be great at that. They should have got him. It can stop! The memory's all coming back! It also falls into the trope of any movie where there's someone with amnesia. The end is just that they remember.
Yeah. So
what could have happened in the movie is he could have gone to a beach for 2 weeks and then he would have just remembered. What's the point in all that detective work if you're just going to remember?
Well, he doesn't know that he's just going to remember. Also, I think it's doing the detective work that triggers his memory, so like jogs his memory a bit.
Fair enough. Alright, what were we talking about? We just done fight scene. No, we were going to do villains, that was it.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to do... So, Conklin.
I explained how Jason Bourne is the real villain, so Conklin is the first hero of the film. He made a mistake. The Treadstone program wasn't quite good enough, and there were some little problems, so it meant that one of their agents lost his memory, and he's just trying to fix his mistake.
My favourite thing about Conklin is he knows how much of a threat Jason Bourne is, and he's He's putting on a brave face, but basically below the surface, he's like really panicking. He's like, activate all the agents! We have to stop him now! I think that he always knew that he was going to die at the hand of Jason Bourne. Which he didn't in the end.
No.
But I like him because he's not just a smug old, yeah, send in the SWAT tubes, we'll soon dispatch this young fellow. He knows what a threat he is, and because of that, he feels a real fear.
He should have coordinated the other agents more.
Yeah.
Rather than just sending them all in one by one.
Yeah.
He should have had them work together.
Or he should have got the professor, instead of assassinating the guy whose name I don't remember, he could have just hidden on a rooftop near where Jason Bourne was. And then shot him as he came out of his building. They shouldn't have sent in Machine Gun Joe or whatever his
that guy.
dumb name was.
Machine Gun Joe.
From the Death Race episode.
Yeah.
I don't think he would have killed him either.
No,
He was the one with the massive knife on his car, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
Oh, I want that now. I want an edited scene of Jason Bourne running away from Sylvester Stallone's giant knife car. Alright, what about Brian Cox?
Yes, him.
He survives
He orders
identity, doesn't he?
He orders the assassin to kill Conklin.
He does. And then he brushes Treadstone under the carpet.
But not very well.
And then in the second one, actually I think my favourite scene in Supremacy is when the guy is like, hey, Brian Cox, come into this cupboard with me. And
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, look, Jason Bourne wouldn't have done this. This was a setup because of this clever fuse box antics. And Brian Cox is like, yes, show me again. And then he stabs him, presumably with a pen. Yeah, and then Brian Cox stabs him and just leaves him in the cupboard.
Yeah. It's not a cupboard, it's a basement. To a very large building.
Isn't the basement just a big underground cupboard?
I mean, you're basically saying that every room is just a big cupboard, which I would disagree with.
This is how I see the world.
I would say that a cupboard has a particular function, not just the size.
It's for putting things in.
It's like a storage area. I wouldn't say, for example, I wouldn't say I'm storing this computer, because I actively use it regularly.
So, Brian Cox.
Yeah.
Oh, he kills himself, doesn't he?
He does, because his shoddy job at covering up Treadstone gets found out.
I don't think any of these guys die at the hand of Jason Bourne, do they?
No.
You have Noah, someone who's knockoff Conklin.
Yeah.
Noah is basically Conklin, but without the fear. He's real naive.
Because, I mean, Conklin ran the entire...
The Treadstone program,
so he kind of knows what he's dealing with.
Yeah. My favourite scene of Ultimatum is the scene where they're like, Jason Bourne's like, I want to meet you all. Come on down to this location that only has one exit.
Come on down.
So the entire building apparently empties.
Oh yeah.
They all go there.
And that made no sense to me.
No?
The entire building would leave and then he'd just
Bourne
be able
would
to
just
walk in.
Yeah. I mean,
Doesn't make any sense.
I love it though. It's just the call where he's like, I'm sitting in my office, Jason. And Jason's like, well, if you were in your office, we'd be having this conversation face to face. And then the realization on his face to face.
Yes.
So, he's the worst. Of the four main villains, he's the worst.
He's the only one who is not a hero, yes.
Does he die?
So at the end, there's some news reports that he's on trial for criminalness. But I don't think he actually dies in the films.
And neither does the Doctor guy.
Neither does the Doctor guy.
Okay. So none of them die at the hand of Jason Bourne.
No.
He does shoot at Jason Bourne.
Yes.
I don't know why that's relevant, but he does.
That's the bullet going in the opposite direction.
It is. Do you want to talk about some of the other characters that we haven't mentioned or discussed?
Are there?
Pam Landy.
Oh yeah.
I like her.
She seems to think she knows more about Jason Bourne than she does. She has very passing association with Treadstone.
She read some files once.
And then she's going around acting like she was there from the beginning and knows Jason Bourne intimately.
True, but she makes smart decisions. I like all the little smart things in these movies. They're like, oh, there's hundreds of agents that could have been the traitor. Well, and she's like, well, look at the ones who had their phones switched off while the transactions were going on, and it's 4 people. And from there they narrow it down. She's doing smart things. I like the characters in these movies who think about things. That's why I don't like Noah. He doesn't think about anything.
He doesn't really do much. He just stands in the shady corner of his office.
And he drives frantically to that place because he wants to be there for some reason. Yeah. What about Nikki Parsons?
Is that Jason Bourne's girlfriend?
No, this is the...
Oh, the
Treadstone
woman.
One of the only characters that's in all three movies.
I don't get what she actually does.
Not
like
much.
in the first film.
In the first film, she's basically just an assistant.
I don't understand what her character is for.
Doesn't Bourne pull her out in the second one because she was there?
Yeah.
He does, because there's that scene where he's across the road and he's like, he's got the sniper rifle and he's like, Pam Landy, are you running Treadstone? And then he's like, I want to send Nicky Parsons. And she's like, I don't know any Nicky Parsons. And he goes, well, if you look on your left, you'll see her. And Pam Landy looks to her left and goes, oh my goodness, there's a woman standing there.
Good job.
There you go, that's my amazing recreation of that tense scene.
But like, her whole character seems a bit like, doesn't really do anything.
She has a weird turn in the last one. She helps Jason Bourne for very little reason. Oh no, because she knew Bourne before.
Oh yeah. That never gets fleshed out.
No.
It's like it's supposed to be that she knew him during the training part.
And he doesn't have a painful head memory of that, so we never find out what it was.
Yeah. But it must have been something important because she basically throws her life away to...
Yeah, she does, doesn't she? Yeah. She's in hiding now.
Yeah.
But I mean, when Blackbriar falls, surely she can come out of hiding, because the assassins all were Blackbriar. What other characters are there that we haven't talked about? Marie? We haven't talked about her?
Marie. Annoying.
Really?
Yeah. She cries a lot.
She kicked that assassin.
And then gets shot. Like, a bit later, not like straight away.
That would be great.
I'm glad that they didn't drag her along through all three films.
Some, actually. And it's a good way of getting him back into the field.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of a cliche way, if we're honest. You killed my wife.
You killed my father, prepare to die.
You killed my father, who fell over, and my wife tripped over his body and fell off out of a window. What other the characters are there? Well, there's that guy who lives in a farmhouse. I don't remember what the history between him and Marie is.
I think her stepbrother, because doesn't he goes back to visit her? He goes back to visit him.
No, it's a different guy. The guy who he visits in Ultimatum.
That's her stepbrother.
Yes, and it's the guy who was in Rush. He's played by Niki Lauda. And
he's not played by Niki Lauda.
Niki Lauda. And the guy in Civil War. He was Zemo in Civil War.
Emo?
Zemo.
Oh.
He was the villain in Civil War. Oh, the listeners of Practically Effective don't know about our first secret podcast.
No.
The proto-podcast.
The prototype, yeah.
Where we just talked about Civil War for 2 hours at a time where you hadn't watched Civil War for about 8 months. Yeah. And the greatest thing you said is that you remember the time Iron Man came in through the window.
It's the scene where he goes to talk to Peter Parker.
Yes.
And I could have sworn, I could remember so vividly Iron Man flying up and coming through the window.
Well, like the suit, or just Tony Stark climbing in laboriously?
No, with the suit.
At some time we might release that, even though it's really not very...
Release it into the wild.
Yes. It's great. It's one of my favourite things we've ever done.
Right.
Oh, it was great. Anyway, sorry. That was a detour. I don't even remember what we were talking about. Oh.
Characters, we were talking about the Niki Lauda guy.
It's Daniel Brawl is his name. The actor's name.
Okay.
He was also in other films.
Wow.
He hasn't just starred in these 3 films. Is there any other important minor-ish
Any
characters?
other minor characters?
I don't think we talked about the major ones. The major, unimportant minor characters.
Yeah, I can't think of any.
What else are we going to talk about? Well, let's talk Jason Bourne, because we haven't given him much time yet.
Yeah.
He's, a man.
Really? He never smiles.
What?
He never smiles. In Supremacy and Ultimatum, he never smiles for the entire film except in flashbacks.
Really?
Yeah.
Even when he's happily living with his girlfriend in India.
In the Supremacy, the only time you see him smile is in a picture with his girlfriend. And in Ultimatum, the only time you see him smile is in flashbacks.
Huh. When he's shooting that guy with the bag on his head. He's just real smug
He's
about
really
it.
joyful. Yeah.
And
yeah, I have another fun fact. It involves Jason Bourne.
Go for it.
The scene that we were talking about earlier with the CIA interrogator guy with the window in his phone.
Yes.
Apparently in that fight scene, Matt Damon actually knocked out the guy.
Apparently Damon did a lot of his own stunts with this.
Yeah.
He trained for like 3 months before Identity to learn all the punches.
But he learned like boxing, apparently.
Yeah, and he learned weapons work as well, and he
Lots of martial arts as well, I think.
did some gun work as well, so that he looked like he knew how to handle a gun. And the martial arts they use in it are really like...
The actual martial arts.
Yeah, and it's not the kind of thing you see in most movies. Because in most of them it's like, I'll do a real big punch, and I'm going to do a flip now. Also I'm narrating.
They're much more like practical. And...
Yeah. You can take out a guy in seconds, which is what an assassin would really need to do.
Yeah.
And when two of them are going at it, like two people who know these techniques, it's just a flurry of hands. And you're throwing a book at him, and you're cutting him with razors, and you're throwing pens at each other. But I really feel in the fight scenes like these people are hurting each other. In a way that I don't when it's Daniel Craig punching someone.
Flailing it out.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. This is actually quite interesting.
Yeah.
So the name Bourne apparently comes from a guy named Ansel Bourne,
Right.
who was the first reported case of dissociative fugue, which is basically memory loss, like what Jason Bourne has.
Yeah.
And this was in 1887.
Right.
He was a preacher on Rhode Island, and one day he woke up and forgot who he was and everything about himself.
Really?
And so he started a new life for himself in Pennsylvania
Yeah.
under the name of Brown.
Yeah.
And then 3 months later, he woke up again, forgetting everything about Brown and re-remembering everything about his life as Bourne, and being very confused why he was in Pennsylvania.
What? Did he just go home?
I guess he must have just gone home.
That's bizarre. Because you see this a lot in movies, but I
Yeah.
never think about it happening in real life to actual people. We should do an episode on him.
His life story.
His special effects.
Oh,
Yes.
I have another thing.
Tell.
In the Swiss embassy scene,
We should talk that scene. Go on, you go.
but all the Marines in that were actual Marines stationed.
Were they?
Or like most of them, not all of them,
Yeah.
were like actual Marines stationed at embassies.
Yeah.
And
That's
they would
cool.
like talk to the director about like what tactics they would use and things like that.
Oh, nice. That's one of my favourite scenes of Identity. I feel like I've said that more than 3 times this episode. I said that a lot. I don't get why... I love so many elements of these movies, but I do not enjoy sitting down and watching them. I mean, I do
Right.
on a level.
Yes, I know what you mean. Actually,
I wouldn't want to put it on.
I can think of lots of individual scenes. I think, yeah, I like that scene.
Yeah.
But the films as a whole, I just kind of think, it's a bit-
Yes.
yeah.
And it's not like there's long stretches between the action scenes that are just dull, because all of it moves the plot forward, and he's doing smart spy things. But yeah, the embassy scene's great. 2 of my favourite things that happen: he's running up the stairwells,
Yeah.
and a police guy runs around the corner, and he just punches him in the crotch and throws him down the stairs. And my other favourite thing is he doesn't know where he's going, so he just rips one of those fire escape
Yes.
maps off the wall, which is great. He does then do a bit of Spider-Manning, and it's...
Drops his bag.
Yeah. Yeah, but again, he takes out, like, 6 Marines, no trouble. This is the kind of thing that I'd sit down in an evening and spend half an hour looking up YouTube clips of.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't want to sit down and watch it for 2 hours. And I can't put my finger on why. We talk about the locations in these movies.
Mm.
This is a rare occurrence of an American spy movie that very little of it takes place in America.
So a lot of the last film takes place
Ultimatum,
in America.
yeah. But the first 2 are primarily in Europe, and also goes to Moscow, which is somewhere that not many movies go.
So the at the end of I forget which order they come in. Supremacy is the second one, right?
Yeah.
So those scenes they actually shot in Moscow.
Yeah.
But then the beginning of Ultimatum is basically right after the end of Supremacy, right?
Yeah.
So he's still in Moscow, but when they were filming it was a few months after they filmed Supremacy, and they decided it was too cold. So they filmed the Moscow bits in, I think, Berlin.
Yes, they did, yeah. I had that as well. And all the snow that they used. And they basically have a big old fire hose, and they fire out this snow, which is basically just really shredded paper. And they spend like hours and hours doing it, and you wouldn't know it's not snow. But apparently when they were filming in Moscow, it was a nightmare. And like, it was so cold that if you touched metal equipment with your bare hand, you'd stick to it. Which is not ideal.
No.
So I can understand why they didn't go back. But it is weird that half of it's set in Moscow and half of it's set in Berlin. I watched them like a day apart and didn't notice. But yeah, I like the locations they go to. I like how they're jumping about Europe. And also, like, the first movie, most of it's in Paris.
Yeah.
But there's no shots of Jason Bourne running past the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah, right.
And they're not driving around the Arc de Triomphe in the car chase, are they?
Yeah.
It's not show like in a Bond movie. It would show off where it is. Be like, location is a big deal. Look how much money we've got, basically. But in Bourne, they're like, we're in Paris. Let's drive a Mini down some stairs. But they're French stairs, as you could tell by the fact that
the cheese everywhere.
they're just covered in cheese and baguettes.
Yeah.
Also, apparently, that car chase, if you know Paris, it geographically makes no sense. They were just like, all right, we need some stairs. Here are some stairs. All right, we need...
Drive down them.
Yep, now we need a road. Okay, over there. Far away from the stairs. We haven't talked about the opening scene, where he's pulled out of the water on the fishing boat.
Right, yeah.
It's real mysterious.
They catch a Bourne fish.
It's really annoyed it's not dead.
There's that one guy on the crew who really liked him for some reason.
Yeah.
Also, he apparently can't speak Italian. He can speak many other languages, but not Italian.
So he does the surgery on Bourne and he pulls some lumps out of his back.
Yeah.
Doesn't do anything with the gaping open wounds. Just kind of leaves them. And then he cuts... He's a terrible surgeon because he sees a small scar. He's like, grabs his scalpel and he's like, I wonder what's under there. Let us open this old wound. Shing. And then he has a little laser pointer.
Yeah.
Which gives you the number of a bank account. Yeah. What?
Why not?
Okay, so I understand why it's there in the film. He needs the first piece of the puzzle. But it's dumb. Because if you kill an assassin, fish the laser pointer out of his side, you can go be like, oh, this is where he keeps all of his other aliases in his safe deposit box. Let's go there, shoot the place up, steal it, and then we have some money. It's literally just there to get the story moving. What else is there? Well,
book.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about the differences? Because I have nothing on this. I know the book was by Robert Ludlum.
So the first film
Yes.
is loosely based off the book.
Yes.
Whereas the second and third films are basically just their own thing.
They literally...
They use the titles of the book. And apparently the director told the screenwriter not to read the book.
Really?
And just go off... Basically the director summarised the book to the screenwriter, or like wrote a draft for the screenwriter and said, don't read the book, go off only my draft.
Because in the interviews, Doug Liman was like, oh yeah, I'd made a couple of good films, and they were like, you can make anything you want, what do you want to make? And he was like, I love the Bourne Identity, I read it at school, I want to make this. That's weird, you'd be like, I love this book, don't read it. So, yeah, what are the differences?
The film differs greatly from the novel, but follows the same premise behind the character Jason Bourne, and the circumstances surrounding his introduction. In both stories, a man is found in the water and wakes up with amnesia, a bank number on a chip embedded in his hip, and an unusual set of skills. Other elements that were present in both the book and the film were Bourne being found near Marseille, Bourne serving on a fishing boat, he and Marie travelling to Paris, Bourne and Marie discovering Kane, or Kane in the novel, as one of Bourne's cover names, Marie initiating the romantic side of the relationship, Marie involving someone from her past, Conklin trying to kill Bourne, and the final fight scene taking place at a Treadstone base of operations, on an upper floor of a brownstone.
Brownstone sounds like the worst version of Treadstone.
Some differences between the film and the novel. In the novel, Jason Bourne does not recover from his injuries on the ship, but spends months at the coast with an alcoholic doctor who performs multiple surgeries on him. Jason's deposit box does not contain cash and a gun, and he opens it in the presence of a high-level bank employee. After this, Jason is attacked in the bank by professional assassins. Marie also plays a more important role in the novel, where she is a Canadian economics analyst named Marie Saint-Jacques, not a German gypsy. There you go.
What a incredibly well scripted set of notes you've written. I like how you've pulled pieces of information from all over the internet and put them together into a coherent paragraph or two. Something you touched on there, which I forgot, which I really like, is that the alias he uses is Michael Caine.
Yeah.
And it's John Michael Caine, but I read it as Michael Caine. I like to think he goes around pretending to be Michael Caine. Alright, I'm going to skim my notes, and if we've got nothing left, we end. Yeah?
Yep.
This is becoming a recurring theme as well. At the end, we just both read our notes and see if there's anything else to say. Oh yeah, the studio binned Doug Liman because of their troubled production.
Yeah.
And got another guy called Tony Gilroy. Nope. Something Greengrass. Paul Greengrass. Tony Gilroy wrote it. Paul Greengrass directed it. There you go. And from all the stuff I saw, he seemed like a very nice guy. Oh yeah, this.
Yeah.
You know how when you're researching stuff, you find a fact and you're like, that cannot be true.
Yeah.
Right, this claims that 2 weeks... 2 weeks... 2 weeks!
Yeah.
2 weeks before the release of Supremacy...
I think I know what you're going to say.
Greengrass and Damon came up with a completely new ending.
Yes, because originally, I'm going to jump in and steal your thunder, if you don't mind.
Well, I'll just say...
You go.
I was going to say, because you'll like this, it involves your favourite movie. It cost them $200,000 and Matt Damon had to be pulled off the filming of Ocean's 12.
Oh.
Which was a travesty, I know.
Ocean's 12 would have only been better.
Sorry, continue.
No, you finish.
That's all I got.
That's what you got?
Yeah.
Oh.
I couldn't find out what it was that they changed.
Well, originally, which film did you say this was?
Supremacy.
Yeah. Oh, so originally it ended at the bit where Matt Damon goes to the daughter and confesses that he killed
the parents.
Killed her father, yeah. But during test screenings, they determined that that was too dark of an ending. Right. So they filmed the whole bit where, he's watching Pamela.
Yes.
That whole bit, they filmed that like 2 weeks to go before the end. They reuse it in Ultimatum.
They do.
But they reshot everything. They didn't just use the same bits from Supremacy. They reshot it.
I didn't know that. What I do like, though, he ends his conversation with, get some rest, Pam. You look tired. And then
but she's facing the other way.
He's staring at the back of her head. Yeah. It's like got a very tired back of her head. Although I like to think that Jason Bourne just implies that he's watching anyone he ends a conversation with. So he gets called by a telemarketer. He's like, hello, I'm Stephen. I'd like to sell you some car insurance. And he's like, I wouldn't do this call, Stephen. You look like you need some rest. You look very tired of this job as you sit in an office wearing clothes. And then he just hangs up. And Steve was like, oh, where is it? Jason Bourne! Anyway, back to frantical notes. That's what this section is called. Frantical note skimming. I don't know why I have to name everything we do.
Oh, apparently Doug Lima's father worked for the CIA and he based a lot of the CIA stuff off of what he told him, yeah.
That's cool. You know the house explosion?
Yes.
Where Jason Bourne blows up
as well, but okay.
I mean, I don't know what you're going to say.
No. Yeah.
I'm going to say that they actually blew up a house.
Yeah.
And that they did it in one take, and they put the stunt guys in these weird, like, in movies they have the classic pull a guy back on a big wire rig. Well, they took that and they wrapped the wire round the guys, so that when they pulled it back, the guys like flipped through the air.
Oh. And
in the video they showed in the behind the scenes, it looks really cool. And then rewatching it in the movie, you can't see what's going on. Because it's done in 4 shots and they're wiggling about. The cameraman's very cold. But no, it looks really cool. And I wish they'd just shown it. Do you think if you shoved a magazine in the toaster, it would ignite? Given how glossy magazines are nowadays.
I remember back in my day, magazines were incredibly flammable.
If you shoved a magazine, we can just test it.
We did talk about... Wait, did we talk about this? I feel like we did. We talked about doing a YouTube series of testing things in movies to see whether they worked.
Yeah.
I feel like magazine and toaster.
Do that. Magazine and toaster,
would be a good starting point.
Yeah.
All right, magazine and the toaster.
Magazine and the toaster.
If you think of anything else that we can do in your garden, write a list. I don't have a garden.
Not their garden.
I'll be honest, I was talking to you. If you can think of anything that we can test that happens in movies and you're like, I wonder if you could do that in real life.
That we can do in Will's.
Yes.
My garden.
Yes.
I am Will.
You are Will. So don't be like, hey, if you crashed a car into another car and they both explode. No.
I mean, I have a car and you have a car.
But how are we going to get them in the garden?
Just go up the driveway.
All right, we're on. You can have 2 car mitts because we've got 2 cars. Oh, I'd love to try out the how easy is it to switch drivers thing.
Yeah, I bet it's really difficult.
I bet it is.
We can try it though.
All right, we'll do it. We'll have a horrible accident for your entertainment.
Yeah.
Oh, that bit where Matt Damon... I nearly said Dat Damon.
Yeah,
that bit where Matt Damon runs across all the train tracks and jumps off the bridge.
Yeah.
He jumped off a bridge, like, suspended by a crane, so he actually leapt off. It wasn't some kind of green screen trickery, which is quite neat.
Yeah.
And then he does this great running jump leap, and then he's just dangling there in the air. And the behind the scenes stuff, the crew, there was like 4 of them sat down on boxes and they were just scored him out of 10. It was great. Well, did you know the Bourne Ultimatum won 3 Oscars?
No. Was one of them sound editing?
Yes, I bet you can guess which ones they were.
Sound editing?
Yes.
Visual effects?
No.
No?
It's the 3 worst Oscars.
Oh, sound editing, sound design, which is like a different one.
Yeah, sound mixing.
Yeah.
And
I don't know.
film editing. The 3 dud Oscars. In Waterloo Station scene, they filmed in Waterloo Station, and obviously they couldn't close it. So some of the people in that scene are just members of the public. They filmed between 10 PM and 4 AM, and they had it for 4 days. And that scene is one of the best. We haven't even talked about Simon Ross or any of the journalism stuff in the third one.
No. I like the journalist is rubbish.
My favourite thing about that scene. I love the assassin in behind the rotating billboard. That's great. My favourite thing is you've got the assassin in the shadows. You've got Bourne running around punching people. You've got the journalist is like in a panic, and all of them are milling about in a crowd, and it's all very sneaky and spy-ish. Then the journalist gets shot, and it's like 3 British policemen in their high-vis jackets blowing whistles run in, and they just ruin all the cool tension. But no, I actually think that is one of the best scenes in the movie. I love the bit where Bourne gets him to go up to that guy at the bus stop in the hoodie, and all the CIA people think that that's his contact. Yeah. It's clever things like that make this a good series. And I wish more movies put a little bit of thought in and did that kind of thing. Oh yeah, the other thing about the Waterloo was the Waterloo Station let them film the actual CCTV cameras in Waterloo Station. Oh. And those are the screens that you see in the CIA headquarters.
That's nice.
It's the actual CCTV, which is neat. I've just written here, producer was clearly fed up of train stations.
Train station and morgues, that's the main places this film.
That can be your art. Bourne, and on one side is the train station, and one side is the body.
Okay.
Yes, alright, so here's the game. So on the Wikipedia article for the Bourne Ultimatum, because I go deep in my research, there was a list of... Tony Gilroy said that they were deliberate allusions to the previous 2 movies, right? And it's basically things they ripped off one movie to put in another.
Put in the next one, yeah.
So here's a game. I'll tell you what it is.
Let's not do all of them, because we're running out of time. But...
Alright, I'll blitz them. Lazy or clever, alright?
Right.
First one is basically opening the movie where the last one ended. So Ultimatum ends where Supremacy ended.
I don't think that's either. It just makes for good continuity.
I think it's quite clever. I like that.
There's nothing like fill in.
Yeah. I don't think a sequel always has to be, and it's 3 years later now.
No.
I like it when it picks up. Bourne goes and talks to Marie's brother in exactly the same way as he goes and tells the girls that he killed her parents.
Oh, yeah. That's lazy.
Very lazy. This is very tenuous. Bourne crashes through the window in the rooftop fight in Ultimatum. Yeah. In the same way as Machine Gun Joe swings through the window in Identity.
I don't think that's either. I think that's just coincidence.
Nikki Parsons dyes her hair black and cuts it short in exactly the same style as Marie.
Again, I don't think that's a throwback.
No, I think that's lazy.
Yeah.
They couldn't think of a different hairstyle to do. The police car chase, as I mentioned earlier, the crash is exactly the same, and then Bourne gets out and doesn't shoot the assassin.
Lazy.
As you mentioned, look at us, look at what they make you give. Bourne says at the end of Ultimatum, this is last lines in the movie, and it's the Professor's last lines.
I quite like that.
I like that as well, because the Professor has clearly seen some things. Yeah. And by the end of Ultimatum, so was Bourne. The "You Look Tired" scene is replayed from the end. Although I do like it that there's a time jump in Supremacy that you don't know until you watch the next one. Bourne floating in the river at the end mirrors the beginning of Identity when he was found floating in the sea. So it's like the very last thing you see him doing is the same as the very first, which I like.
Yeah, again, I don't think that's deliberate though. I think it's just like...
No, I think it was though. I think it's like, it ends as it began, with Matt Damon floating in a large body of water. And then that fishing boat comes past and he's like, not again!
Not again!
Learn to swim.
Kicks off another trilogy. He loses his memory again. Has to get it all back again.
On the other thing that isn't, I don't know why it's in this section, but it's there. In the files of terminated victims from the Blackbriar stuff, one of the pictures is of the guy who played Bourne in the 1998 TV movie.
Oh, nice.
Which is really nice. So, do you want to wrap up?
Wrap up.
Alright, so we end with a fight.
We have to make them all. We have to make all the Bournes fight each other.
So, Ultimatum Bourne, Identity Bourne, and Supremacy Bourne.
Well, I told you that I think the Ultimatum Bourne would win.
Yep.
Because he's got more experience.
Yeah. And I maintain that if Ultimatum Bourne would just be like, hey, do you remember when you shot that guy with a bag on his head? And the other two Bournes would go, remember. And they just collapse. And then he'd probably stab them both with pens.
Yeah.
But then Supremacy Bourne, he'd set off his car alarm. And then Ultimatum Bourne would whip round and the other two would attack him. And it would be a real skirmish. It depends where this is set, because they do that thing where they grab something from their environment.
Yeah.
Where are we? Where are we putting them?
In the middle of a field.
Sorry. Identity Bourne would just pick a daffodil and stab them in the eyes with it. Supremacy Bourne would just get a handful of earth, try and force it down one of their throats. Alright, here's a better fight.
Mm-hmm.
Jason Bourne
Yeah.
versus James Bond
Yeah.
versus Ethan Hunt from the Mission Impossible movies.
I've never seen a Mission Impossible film.
Really?
I've never seen a Mission Impossible film.
4 is the best.
Okay.
5's pretty good. The first one is no, let's not do this now.
Okay.
well, we should do Mission Impossible 1, 2, 3 as a special, because most of them are no good.
Probably Jason Bourne.
Yeah, I agree. James Bond, I think if you take away his gadgets, he doesn't have much. Jason Bourne is a guy who, if you put him in a situation, can improvise with what's around him. James Bond is a guy who can use the things that he's given by Q. So, I mean, if Q gives him a hand grenade pen, Bourne would stab him with it. How good would that be? It's Bond v Bourne, and Bond's like, here, we'll sign this disclaimer agreement, non-disclosure agreement. And Bourne would take...
fight we're about to have.
Yes. And then Bourne would take the pen, he'd click it 3 times, stab Bond in the hand, and then it would explode. Right, Bourne wins by pen explosion. And finally...
the only section that matters.
So, Will, last episode,
Yeah.
you claimed that you were going to write a beautiful sonnet to describe what this section is. And a way to explain it to the world.
I don't know.
Right, pending.
We put Jennifer Lawrence in films that she's not in because she's the greatest human being. That's what we're doing.
We recast her.
Yeah.
Alright, so options are...
I know you're going to suggest Nick.
Yes. Nick.
What's her name?
Nicky Parsons.
No.
Fair enough.
She's useless.
It was a lame attempt.
Yeah.
You can have Pam Landy.
No.
You can have the 2 villains from the last movie
thing
so they
is,
don't die. You can have the villains of the
I
first
like
movie.
Conklin,
Yeah.
but he dies.
Alright.
So,
Well.
yeah.
Unwritten.
Okay.
There are 3 rules of this of this section. The person can't die.
Yeah.
The person can't
Can't be romantically linked to anyone.
and we can change the movie literally however we want
yeah.
to make it work. So
you've got some wacky suggestions to make
I'm working on
work.
something. So the assassin is in the car. He gets his text to take out Conklin.
Yeah.
He sees a shadowy man walking down the road toward him. He steps out of the car, pulls out his gun,
Yeah.
and drops it because he's a rubbish
Because he's
assassin.
a rubbish assassin.
Conklin just strolls by.
They give each other a polite nod as they pass each other.
Yeah. The assassin bends down to tie his shoe.
Yeah.
Conklin walks by. The assassin picks up the gun, whips round, over enthusiastically, and the gun flies out of his hand through the windscreen of a parked car, setting off the car alarm. And Conklin at this point, he's still completely...
He's completely
He doesn't
oblivious.
notice.
Yeah. So she at this point.
He's like, oh, it's Jason Bourne. Here's the car alarm. Assumes it's Bourne, makes the break for it. And then we have to put him in the other 2 movies. We have to put her in the other two movies. And we add a Brian Cox funeral scene. And he's there as the one mourner.
No, well, she could just replace Pamela.
Yeah, what?
And actually be good.
I still think Pam Landy's a good character.
No.
I mean, she does trust Jason Bourne for next to no reason. So yeah, he replaces... I'm so confused. Then Conklin.
Brian Cox isn't in the...
He shoots himself in the head.
Yeah.
No, I say, she's the funeral... There's a Brian Cox funeral scene. It's an after-credit scene in Supremacy. And she's there as the one mourner.
Yeah.
And she like sprinkles ash on his grave. And he's like, I will avenge you. And then she is Brian Cox the Doctor in the third one. Like, Jason, you've come home. I've been smoking
as Conklin.
Yes. Because it would make sense for Conklin to be there, right? Because it's the training facility.
Yeah, but I suppose. Okay. I have a counter suggestion.
Go on.
Identity is the same as you suggested. Then in Supremacy, she replaces Pamela.
Yes.
And as Conklin.
Yes.
And then replaces the Doctor in the third one.
Okay. But then Pam Landy's in the third one.
Just replace her with literally anyone else.
Nikki Parsons. She gets a promotion at the end of Supremacy. But then Nikki Parsons has to be replaced with someone.
Well, okay, Pamela can just be in the third one, just shows up.
A new guy.
Yeah. So let's summarise. In Identity, she plays Conklin who survives because the assassin is
a
useless.
Complete moron. Oh, I maintain that through the next two movies, this same assassin is still trying to kill her, but in the background, it's just completely inept.
Okay. Then in Supremacy, she just replaces Pamela.
Yeah.
And in the third one, she plays the Doctor at the end.
Yep.
Yeah.
Who survives?
Yeah.
But
shoots Jason Bourne. Except she wouldn't miss because... Why?
The Doctor doesn't shoot Jason Bourne. That's Noah.
Oh, yeah.
Discount Cochran.
Discount Cochran.
Alright, Noah pulls his gun. He's about to shoot Bourne. He gets shot through the head from behind. And the Doctor appears, pulls a gun, and shoots Bourne in the back. Twice.
Yeah, have Jen shooting Bourne. That'd be fine.
And then he falls in the ocean, forgets who he is again. And we
get another 3 films.
Yeah. Or he falls through like a time and space portal and is thrown back to off the coast of Marseille 2 years before.
It's actually just a repeating loop.
And
This
it's a
keeps
loop.
happening. Yeah.
Alright, we did it.
You did it.
That was the most convoluted one yet. So, I meant to mention this up top, but this is episode 16. And I've told you this several times, but when we started doing the podcast, I read an article which is like how to be a good at podcast.
Yeah.
And it said, hey, most podcasts suck, and people give up on them somewhere between episode 7 and 15. Oh. And this is episode 16.
Yes.
So we passed that dead zone, Will.
We can stop now.
We just proved that guy wrong. Yep. Right, so that's the end of Practical Effect. Yeah, there you go, that's the thing. Do you want to...
Next time,
yeah.
X-Men First Class.
X-Men First Class?
Yay!
Because
it's got Jennifer Lawrence in it and Red Sparrow.
Like we need a reason.
Came out like a week ago. This is partly because Red Sparrow came out. Yeah, and that's about spies and so are the Bourne films.
Yes.
But also...
Jason Bourne doesn't use his sweet body to kill people, does he?
Also, X-Men, because that's got Jennifer Lawrence in it, and so does Red Sparrow.
Also, I really like X-Men First Class. I need to watch it again to work out whether it's better than Iron Man.
Of course it's better than Iron Man. Iron Man doesn't have Jen in it.
We put her in it.
We put her in it.
We meant it.
We fixed it. Alright. Thank you for listening to Practically Effective. You can find us on SoundCloud and iTunes and YouTube. We have a Facebook, we have a Twitter at PracticallyFX, and you can email us at practicallyeffective@gmail.com.
I haven't checked the email for weeks.
No, lie. We could have some really urgent stuff.
Yeah, hundreds of emails.
Maybe Jennifer Lawrence has emailed us.
You never know.
I haven't checked. I need to check.
We give out our address every week.
Yeah.
Practically
every other week, because we're not a weekly thing.
One day.
One day you'll learn this. Bye.